But there is another recurring theme that runs through the Christmas movies. I think we've got another picture coming up. This is the best example of this. This is one of my favorite Christmas films. I know that's probably not something I should admit as a pastor. This film probably does this kind of thing the best. It's not just those people on the outside getting in and belonging, but people, this happens over and over again in Christmas films, the people who you think are already in, the people who are in the room and all cozy and having the perfect Christmas and should have all the answers to life. It's also in the Christmas films over and over again. Sometimes it's often even Santa that's figuring this lesson out, is how to belong. Basically, you've just got a sequence of guys, and there's another dad that comes in the last one who's even more macho than Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson put together. And it's just basically increasingly people you'd think who would have all the answers at Christmas still learning how to belong. Christmas films, I think, give a really interesting message. They don't just say there's a few poor souls that need to connect at Christmas. Here's the formula to work it out. What they say is there is a deep, wired, universal human ache for us to belong. It runs deep within our souls. And it can hit us even if we're like these guys who look like we've got it all together, or if at our moment in life we're the person who's outside in the cold, in the snow. Our need to belong is huge for us. You'll have too much sticky toffee pudding at Christmas, you'll have too many mince pies, I'm already over my limit. But you will not reach the limit of belonging. You will ache to belonging. There is no limit on how much we could want to belong. And as I look around our world, just to make like a psychological assessment and not to dwell on it too much, we will do almost anything it takes to belong. Make ourselves look however we can, earn as much money as we can. We will do whatever it takes, put ourselves in some vulnerable positions to belong. I want to show you another scene now, and this scene is also a perfect scene. You may be familiar with this scene. It's perfect, isn't it? That's definitely often how we think of it. The stars have aligned. There is this perfect family being created in this sort of manger scene. And when you see that, especially when it's coupled with, or it's through the lens of Holy Joe religiousness, which is often how we come to view the Christmas scene. It's how a lot of people would view the Christmas scenes. You can easily think that belonging to that can be about spending the rest of your life figuring out how to fit in. Often Christianity is observed in those terms. We look at it as a cozy Christmas scene, and it's something that we've got to work hard to fit in with. And the problem, of course, with that, as it does often happen, is you end up with a bunch of people inside pretending to be good, and a bunch of people outside church who look inside church and see people pretending and say, I don't really know if I want to go there. I don't know if I want to be like that. That is often the perception of church. This is something that you've got to belong to it. You've got to see the cozy perfect thing, see the cozy perfect image, and work hard to fit in. What I would say to you is, and this is kind of the Christmas message this time, that is not the truth of that picture or that story. This is not a perfect family picture, and it's not a scene that you have to improve yourself to belong to. To really understand the scene, to understand the Christmas story and what the Bible says about belonging, you've really got to look further into the story. This family, even with the star above it, it is not a perfect picture for us. I don't know if you're familiar with Herod. They are born in the times of Herod, the baby killer. This family would be a refugee family that would find nowhere to settle, have nowhere to go. Famously, this family, Joseph, you'll be familiar with Joseph, this brave, heroic guy, he's not even the dad. And that would make this family in those times kind of a second-class family. And what we go on to find out in the story is Joseph. We don't really read any more about Joseph. We don't know if he ends up being a good guy, but he just disappears. The dad is not around. It's not the perfect family. Mary would have a life of worry. We read that about her. And not only would she have a life of worry, but she would be ostracized. She's got an illegitimate kid. This is not the perfect family picture. We read about Jesus' brothers, his siblings, that none of them liked him, at least when he was alive. This is not the perfect family picture. And quite crucially, and in keeping with the text that Steve read out to us, and just think about this, this is the story of Christmas, really. There was no room for him. That is the point of this picture. It's beautiful and idyllic for us to look at, and we've kind of idealized it and idealized this family. But the truth of the story is there was no room for him. He was born in a manger where the cattle should have been. This would be this man's handle. This would be his reputation. There would be no room for this man. There would be no place for him to rest his head. The story and the good news of Christmas is about belonging, but it's not that we see something cozy and perfect and spend our lives figuring out how to get in with that story, to stay in with that story. That's not the story of Christmas. The story of Christmas is not that it's all cozy and perfect. The story of Christmas is how far away from comfort God would be willing to come to reach us so that we would see him and know that we belong to him. How alone he would get. That is the picture of Christmas. How far from the comfort that he knew, heaven's glory, you can think of it like that, with God, his Father, how far away from that he would come to show people that they belonged, that they had love. He left everything to be born nowhere. He abandons, and this is so beautiful if you look at his life. He continuously abandons everything, sacrifices himself for everything in order to reach out increasingly. As you follow the stories of Jesus, there's just less and less of him. He's got increasingly nowhere to go, and he gets less and less and more humble, and yet he reaches out across more and more boundaries. Denominationally, the people that are rejected in life, Jesus reaches out and he stretches out until in the end, this is the story, there we see him on the cross, completely alone, arms stretched out as wide as they can go, in order to let as many people who would hear it know that they are loved and known and belong. If you want to know who your people are, if you want to know if you belong, and that is something that you'll search for, whether you've got it all together, whether you haven't got it all together. Don't just go for the crowd that you can fit in with. Don't just think of it as the crowd who like the same music or things as you. To know that you belong, think of the people who would give up everything for you, who would just cast aside everything in order that you would feel known and loved. That is the story of Christmas. We don't behave to belong. We see something wonderful and might want to be changed, but we don't behave to belong. We have a story in our hearts where there is a reaching out into an empty world, that people might know that they are loved and they would belong. 2 takeaways for you over Christmas. The feeling of belonging is a gift. If you happen to have that in a little family, in a little community, in a friendship group, there's some wise words in not taking that for granted. Enjoy the belonging that is around you. But not only is it a gift to you, the wonderful story of Christmas is that is a gift to all. The Christmas story comes to us, and it screams to us of how far God would go, that we might know that we are loved and we are known.